Hi, my name's James Robbins. I'm Product Development Manager at Shakespeare and also a member of the Shakespeare Super Team. For this video we're going to look at method feeder fishing on commercials. So method feeder fishing is a very simple and effective technique. It's evolved over the last 20 years for catching carp and bream, typically on commercials like this. You can break it down into two different types of method feeder, those that are running and those that are fixed. Now, a running rig like this is often used where the rules stipulate that you can't use a fixed feeder. Perhaps where the owners feel that the fish could be tethered to the fixed method feeder and cause problems to the fish. But as you can see, this rig is extremely simple. Basically, it just consists of an inline feeder that I've actually put over a loop and attached to a snap swivel, and then the short hook length. Now, the short hook length is the key factor when you're thinking about method feeder fishing, because what you're actually doing is you're making the method ball of ground bait or pellets, whatever you're using, and you're putting your hook bait smack in the middle. So the fish are just feeding on the ball of ground bait as if they were fishing on any loose offering that they might come across. They're taking your hook bait and the fish hooks itself. Now, with an inline feeder, the fish will hook themselves, but it pays to fish with a tight, direct line to the feeder to help emphasise and improve the hookup rate. The original fixed method feeder system actually has an even higher bolt rig effect, in that the feeder is fixed to the main line. The feeder itself is quite heavy, so when the fish takes the bait, it hooks itself against the heavy feeder and the fish is on. So a good advantage when you're using a fixed feeder is that you can use a slack line. So you don't have to tighten up to the feeder to help hook the fish, which means that the line can settle gently onto the bottom, not spook any fish in the area if the water's clear, and also reduce line bites. So you're basically not waiting for any small bites or taps, you're waiting for the rod to wrap round or drop back. So I've selected two rods today to fish on this medium-sized commercial. The first of which is the 10'6" Mach 3 XT rod. Now, all the Mach 3 XT rods come with a very high quality 36-ton carbon blank and Fuji alkanite guides throughout. So the blanks themselves are very slim, very light, but also very strong. And a key fact for these rods when you're fishing a method on a venue like this is the fact that they're very, very progressive in action, but also retain a lot of power in the butt and middle section. So the soft progressive action helps you to reduce the amount of fish you lose in terms of hook pulls and also the line breaking. Now, shorter rods are becoming more and more popular on commercials, so the 10'6" is my choice for any casting distance up to about 30 metres. But if I want to go over 30 metres, then I'll step up in length from the 10'6" to the 11'6" version. So it's basically the same construction in terms of the rod, but it's just that little bit longer to help you cast further, more accurately, and it has got that little bit more power in the butt section. So those are the two main choices that I use when I'm fishing on commercials. Another rod I wanted to quickly mention was from the Mach 1 family. This is a Mach 1 XT 10-foot quiver, and for the money it represents tremendous value. These retail around about £30, and for most applications on waters like this where you're not casting too far, you're catching decent carp, these rods are absolutely tremendous. So moving on quickly from the rods, just want to mention the reels I'm using, which are the Mach 3 XT 035 front drags. For short distance fishing like this, you don't need a big reel, and I think the 035 size fits the bill perfectly. The reels are very strong, very reliable, and got a very, very smooth drag. And as I've said before, I actually favour front drag reels over rear drag reels, but it's worth mentioning that we do have rear drag versions of all the sizes with the Mach 3 series. So onto line. I'm actually using two different reel lines today. I'm using 4-pound trilene sensation and 4-pound trilene fluorocarbon. So the Sensation is a standard mono that's extremely strong. It's got a very low diameter in terms of its breaking strain, and really for most of my commercial fishing I don't go over 4 pound. I don't think there's any real need. If I was casting bigger distances I might incorporate a 6 or 8 pound shock leader with a bigger feeder, but I'd still use the 4-pound trilene mainline. So on the fluorocarbon, I've started using fluorocarbon a lot now as a reel line when I'm feeder fishing. I really like it for 2 reasons. One, in clear water conditions the line is completely invisible in the water, so you reduce the amount of fish that you spook. And 2, it sinks extremely well. That's the key characteristic actually for me. The fact that when I cast, especially when you're fishing with a method, you can put the rod down and the line will sink very, very quickly. You haven't got to worry about trying to sink the line. So, moving on to bait that we use when we're fishing a method feeder. It obviously goes without saying that ground bait is a fundamental part of method feeder fishing. But one thing to say is it's very, very important to mix it up correctly and also to use the right mix. The mix I favour for most of my method feeder fishing is 50% green swim stim mixed with 50% method mix. Now you'd think that you could use method mix on its own, which is perfectly acceptable, but I find that that's a little bit too sticky for the style of fishing that I do, so that's why I mix it with 50% swim stim, which is obviously a proven attractor for carp and works very, very effectively. So step 1 is to mix both these ground baits together. I like to use a bait tub just to measure it and ensure that I've got the correct amount for this deadly mix. Okay, so that's the 2 ground baits together. Now we mix it thoroughly to ensure that the 2 ground baits are equally mixed. Now the next most important step is to add the water. I like to use a pint tub to ensure that I've got the right amount of ground bait and I don't over wet it. Then it's just a case of mixing vigorously and ensuring all the water gets into the ground bait and starts absorbing. A really key tip as well is to always riddle your ground bait. This ensures that the mix is evenly distributed and also removes any lumps and produces a really nice fine and even method mix. So to make the pellet mix for the use in feeder fishing and also on the cone method, take some 2 or 3 mil dry pellets, in this case marine halibut, add some water, swamp them and ensure that they're all completely soaked. And then I like to let it stand just for 1 or 2 minutes to absorb as much water as possible. Then I'll strain it out on my ground bait riddle and basically leave that in an airtight bag or in a small tub, and it will produce lovely consistent pellets that will mould effectively into a ball and also onto your method feeder. The hook length wants to be, for the most part, as short as possible. Some venues you'll find will stipulate that there's a minimum requirement on the hook length of say 6 inches. But anything around about 6 inches or less will help to enhance that bolt effect. The actual hook length material, I use Berkeley XWR, and you can get away with some pretty heavy hook length material. This is actually 018 and it's got a breaking strain of nearly 8 pounds. So over this short distance of hook length, it's important to have a very strong hook length that's both robust and extremely strong if you're catching lots and lots of fish.